This is not the church of Joseph Smith. This is the Church of Jesus Christ.
Travis Wayne Goodsell. I had a commenter who made the faux pas of linking me to Ogden Kraut to see if what I thought about, if it matches what I believed would happen to our government with what he said, Joseph Smith said, would happen to our government. If you want to know what I think about what other people think, you're going to have to do your own research. You're going to have to listen to my videos and find out what I think. And then compare. So, by the way, I'm not listening to an hour-and-a-half video or 2-hour video. I already have it in my collection. It's in the records. I may refer to it some years, decades from now. I have no interest in using Ogden Kraut as the focus of my research. He wrote a book called The One Mighty and Strong. And so from my position, I already know the answers. I don't need to research this anymore. And if you don't understand, you've not been watching my channel. But he says that he makes some amusing claims. He says that it's a common fundamentalist belief, which, yeah, this is why. This is where they get it from. This is why they justify breaking off from the church, is that they believe that the church has fallen. Just as Brigham Young believed that Joseph Smith had fallen and therefore needed to take it over. Nobody thinks about that. Mormons are sure that fundamentalists are wrong for thinking that the church had fallen, but don't think that their church is wrong for thinking Joseph Smith fell. Because the church doesn't necessarily come right out and directly tell us he fell, but he seems to be wrong an awful lot of the time, and a lot of his works were not published in our canon. And a lot of his works were changed and altered and deleted and replaced. They treated Joseph Smith as if he had fallen. And yet Mormons today don't get a clue. But regardless, it's referring to the church, the mainstream church, is out of order. And that it will be set in order. It's technically the temple that it's talking about. But yeah, the temple is the central focus of the church, as the Book of Mormon is the keystone for the temple. But setting in order the house of God will be the greater event than the restoration. Yeah, because Joseph Smith's restoration is all about this event. So just like Nelson, for Christianity, Christmas is all about Easter. Easter is greater than Christmas. That's what it is for Mormonism, is that the latter day millennial reign is greater than the restoration. What failed in the beginning will succeed in the end. Didn't fail, it was sabotaged. The miracles will be greater. The number of converts. You listening, Mormons? Is this going to be true? Because I'm having a hard time believing this one. The number of converts will be more numerous. The power and wealth of the saints will be richer, and Zion, the New Jerusalem, will finally be built. Yeah, sorry, but Mormons are required to fulfill this. They have to leave the church. Not gonna happen, is it, Mormons? I did my best, but you guys are stubborn. And stubbornness gets you dead. That's what they're gonna do to you. I'm trying to warn you, but you refuse to listen. So, it is necessary, as I'm not going to accept his comment, but I'm not going to report him. There's nothing to report, and I'm not going to ban him. So hopefully he gets word of this video. Let me get out of here. And so how do I study and research? Apparently I have to redo this video yet again for the newer audience. I'm the one who's made major discoveries, bombshell discoveries, with the real church history. And even critics of the church are behaving like Mormons and refusing to believe, which is stupid. But when you call them stupid, just like Mormons, it hardens their hearts even further, and then they get angry with you, and then they ghost you, and then they spread it around. Oh, Travis is so mean, his tone, I don't like it. I'm a professional teacher, and he's not behaving like a professional teacher. This is not a channel for professional teaching. So bleep you. This is a social media site. I'm trying to be a human and communicate with you. And unfortunately, it has to be to you, because very few of you will decently respond. And so I've explained that you have to use the scientific process, and using the Socratic method for logical development of your theories. And once you've developed a theory, then you have to test it. You can't use hypothetical tests. Well, if we could create this scenario, which is impossible, we'd find out and I would be true. No, can't do that. You know, it's like the Book of Mormon plates. We don't have them. You can't use any theories that involve the plates because we don't have them. You have to get the plates, and then you'd make the theories. And so anybody who's making theories that are hypothetical based upon plates not existing can't do it. There's a reason why there's no plates. And it's not because an angel took them. And so, yes, this upsets Mormons. They don't want to know the truth. They're scared. I was Mormon, born and raised. I believe Joseph Smith. I believe the Book of Mormon. I did the research. I did the study. And yes, they are true. Just not your truth. Use science, not your truth. God, our nation is falling to hell. And you think it's a good thing to follow their practices? And so, you look for patterns. And then when you discover anomalies, that's when you develop a theory to test for replication or confirmation or denial. And if you get a denial, you've got to go back to the drawing board and redo your theory. If your theory is not sound, you've got to redo your theory. And so, for church history research, I suggested you have files for people, places, events, and dates, so that when you recognize patterns, you can then also identify anomalies in those patterns to do further research and run theory tests, etc., etc. And so, I will give you an example here. There's a guy named William Morgan, under anti-Mason in Wikipedia, born 1774, and under disappearance, he was working on a book. He had his home in Batavia. The press there in Batavia fronted him money to work on the book. So they thought it was going to be a big enough deal that they gave him money to work on this book. And yet he didn't work on it at home. He stayed away from home to work on this book that involved a national security threat. And we find out that he was jailed in Canandaigua, New York on 9/11. Arrested for supposed non-payment of a loan. He got fronted money. He's got the money. That's what the money was given to him for. Allegedly stealing a shirt and a tie. He can just buy his own shirt and tie. See what they're doing here? He's being exposed. They've caught him. And so they're falsely accusing him so that he can't work on the book. And this is a practice that I've come to find out through, again, the same process of their purposely locking up people that they want silenced and disappeared as a threat. And if they keep getting out, they'll eventually murder them. And so he's in Canandaigua, New York. Okay? So we've got a place. So one day you're doing church history research, separate and distinct from the Illuminati, anti-Mason, Freemasonry stuff. You think it's completely separate. Wikipedia page says so. Even though they do make the pattern connection that Joseph Smith did baptisms for the dead that included him. But they still can't quite figure out if there's a connection to William Morgan. They just assume that it's because his wife joined. And so you have to involve in your study Joseph Smith Sr., the father of Joseph Smith Jr., the founder of the Church of Christ, which was changed to the Church of Latter-day Saints in 1834 by unanimous vote of the leadership, not by Joseph Smith's word. In case you're wondering about section 115. For that, I'd have to skip ahead, not show my work for you, because this is a social media site, not a class. And I'd have to explain all about the Danites and who the Danites were, that they were the secret combination that were infiltrated Joseph's organization so that they can overthrow it, have him murdered after locking him up multiple times, and he keeps getting out, so they murdered him, took over his church, and fled the country into Mexico territory. Yes, it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So Joseph Smith Sr., under early life, you're reading along, doing your study, and you come to the second paragraph. Smith tried his hands at several professions, moved his family to Palmyra, New York in 1816. He was in Manchester Township. He was raised to the degree of Master Mason. on May 7th, 1818, in Ontario Lodge, number 23 of Canandaigua, New York. Pattern match. The anomalies are different people at that same location. So William Morgan is working on a book in Canandaigua, New York. He's a Freemason, so he's at the lodge in Canandaigua, New York. That's the pattern. Joseph Smith Sr. is Master Mason at the lodge in Canandaigua, New York during the same time. Pattern. Joseph Smith Sr. knows about the book. He was helping write it. Wonder what happened to that book, because it didn't get finished. 9/11, 1826 was the arrest. He disappeared. Wonder what became of the 116 pages that were on as far as they got. See, this is what you have to do in your research. Fill in those blanks. I've already filled in those blanks. That's why I'm able to smile. Oh, I know the answers. And so then you get to Heber C. Kimball, because you probably had heard the rumors about his prophecy that in the latter days the missionaries would be called home in 2020, only for a couple of weeks, until Nelson threatened the governor to reopen the state, and then sent them back out on their missions to die. A number of missionaries died because he sent them back out. Bastard. So under Masonry for Heber C. Kimball. Another pattern match. Freemasonry. In 1823, Kimball is writing in his journal about this time period. He's already in the valley here, and he's writing about the past, and he's talking about this moment in time. And so according to the Wikipedia page on this, in 1823, Kimball received the 3 craft degrees of Freemasonry. And of course, you've done your study and you know that Freemasonry today is not the same as Freemasonry before 1826. That there are strict rules and guidelines and requirements and procedures and etc. And so to go 3 craft degrees in 1 year, nope. Especially when you realize that Heber C. Kimball in 1823 is 22 years old. And he claims it's over in Victor Flats area. You did your research and you found that's Scottish Rites territory, not York Rites territory of Joseph and William. Anomaly. 2 anomalies. The first anomaly is it's a contradiction of how it's supposed to be. The second anomaly is it's the different Freemasonry organization. Scottish Rites instead of York Rites. And of course you've done your research, right? And you've found that York Rites has the highest rank of the Knights Templar. And then you have to do your research on the Knights Templar. Then you learn about the Holy Grail, which is the bloodline of the Messiah for the latter days. Descendant of King David. Similar to the Jewish learning. Learning of the Jews. That the Book of Mormon is supposed to be understood and interpreted by. Not Christian with Jesus. And Egyptian gold plates. Friday the 13th. Coming to America. Theme song in the description below. Promises, promises. I don't know if that is actually the lyrics of Promises, Promises. Maybe I'll check it out. If not, I'll use This Is Not America instead. We'll see. You'll see. And so, in 1824, very next year, he then claims he sent a petition to the chapter at Pattern Match, Canandaigua, New York. We already have a couple of anomalies, one of which is a contradiction. To receive the Yorkite degrees of Royal Ark Masonry. Again, a contradictory anomaly. You don't get to skip. You have to be able to certify and swear an oath that you have gone through the ranks one at a time. And not in 1 year. Not at 22 years of age. 23 at this point. So there's a lot of anomalies here. Or we can just call them lies. He says his petition was accepted, although, as he reports, anti-Masons had burned down the chapter building in Canandaigua. So why didn't he just use Joseph Smith Sr. as his confirmation? He claims Joseph Smith Sr. accepted him. He doesn't mention Joseph Smith Sr. Why not? Because he's lying. So why is he lying? And then you find out that he took over the church with Brigham. And he's lying here before the church even gets started. When the church that he now is a part of had conquered Joseph Smith. He's the enemy threat that the book was warning about. The great and abominable church of Lucifer, with the symbol of the inverted pentagram that just happens to coincidentally be on the keystone of the doors of the Salt Lake Temple, the headquarters. That's how you do research. And obviously there's a whole bunch of stuff missing, but I told you that it was missing and that you need to do the research to fill in the gaps. But that's how you do things, to fill in the gaps. Like a whiff of perfume. Interesting. Have to be pretty strong. And why is a woman wearing perfume to go to a dog park? Guess it's a great place to pick up partners. So, that should answer the guy's question. Because he wanted to know. Joseph Smith confirms a lot of this with his works. As 19 July 1840b from the Joseph Smith Papers was rejected by Brigham Young because Joseph Smith has fallen. That is not approved scripture for canon. I'm sure it had nothing to do with Joseph Smith calling out Brigham Young and his 12 as Judas.